It's another wonderful day to you, and I welcome you to this segment once again on Newspaper Review here in First News Sport Accord. I am Kings Ojalo. I will be taking you through all our newspaper headlines and highlighted stories within the country, including outside the country, Nigeria. Now, let's dive into our newspaper segment and the headlines, which we will be starting with the Peak newspaper. On the Peak newspaper, boldly written, we have Kwara lawmakers. Honorable Arinola Lawal disposes 25 million to empower Ilorin East constituents. Take that again. Kwara lawmakers, Honorable Arinola Lawal disposes 25 million naira to empower Ilorin East constituents. Now, on the top of the Peak newspaper, we have Obi Ezekwesili joins protest at National Assembly, demands mandatory e-transmission of election results. Now, we also have on that newspaper, 14 die in both mishap in Kebbi. Now, going to the leadership. On the leadership, we have on the top, El-Rufai spends second day in EFCC custody. Yes, looking at the situation surrounding the former Kaduna State Governor El-Rufai, which he was apprehended by the DSS and also the EFCC security forces in the Abuja International Airport. Now, it has been said that he was taken to the custody of the EFCC, which is still remanded in the custody, which he was accused of alleged 432 billion naira fraudulent act in his tenure as a governor. Now, going straight to the other news, ACF kick as reps aligned with Senate on e-transmission manual backup. You find that in page 4. Now, going straight to the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian, we have 2027 elections takes shape as APC majority prevails, legal tussle lumps. 2027 election takes shape as APC majority prevails, legal tussle lumps. You find that in page 6 of that newspaper platform. Now, on the top, we have Niger residents flee to Benin Republic as terrorists evade Pogo again. Yes, crucial incidents happening in Niger State, and also individuals, civilians, and citizens of the state fleeing to nearby neighboring country, such as Benin Republic. That is a crucial one there. We also have Remi Tinubu seeks prayer for Nigeria as let Ramadan begins. We also have Zamfara government aligns inclusion from federal government support over party affiliation. You find that in page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, going straight to the Daily Sun newspaper, highlighted on the Daily Sun. Elections may hold in December 2026. January. Election may hold in December 2026 and then January. As Senate moves to amend Electoral Act bill in response to poll clash with Ramadan Latin season. You find that in page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. That is an interesting one there from the Senate. Now, we also have in page 27 at the top, Obi condemns tear gassing of protesters, insisting on electronic transmission of election results. Now, on the bottom side, FAN bans cash transaction in airports. FAN, that is FAAN, bans cash transaction in airports. You find that in page 25. We also have free Nnamdi Kanu or return him to Kenya. Southeast monarch tells Tinubu. Yes, that is an interesting one from the Southeast, where a monarch has called on the federal government to release the IPOB leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. You find that in page 29 of that newspaper platform. Now, in page 25, NUPRC unveils gravimetric flow mattering collaboration facility. Now, take that again. NUPRC unveils gravimetric flow mattering collaboration facility. Now, we also have in page 4, EFCC to secure remand order to detain El-Rufai till end of investigation. Now, going to the Daily Independence of the Daily Independence, judge may be factories, job not policy count. Take that again. Judge may buy factories, job not policy count. That is coming from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Tinubu. which also stated, unveils Nigeria Industrial Policy 2025, charges stakeholders on speedy implementation, says admin recognizes belief in youth potential. Yes. Now, on the bottom left, reps makes U-turn, okay, manual transmission of election result. You find that in page 6 of that newspaper. Now, on the top, we have Electoral Act Amendment. Police despises protesters at NASS. We also have FCT pools. INEC assures of real-time e-transmission of results. Now going to the Punch newspaper. On the Punch, we have so many interesting headlines, which starts with the highlighted one, 2027 election. Lawmakers protest as NAS OK's e-transmission manual backup. Find that in page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Now we also have on the top, cash crunch. Ministers lament as 10 trillion naira capital funding tours. That is in page 9 of the Punch newspaper platform. We also have Nigeria loses 1.76 trillion naira after missing OPEC quota. You find that in page 22 of that newspaper platform. Now on the bottom, Ramadan Lent begins today across the globe. You find that in page 7. Still on the Punch newspaper, Ondo APC chair beating as party meeting erupts in chaos. You find that in page 8 of the Punch newspaper. We also have in page 22, NUPRC moves to end crude theft with first material facility. Now going to the Matrix newspaper. On the Matrix newspaper, on the highlighted one, Ahmed Rodi's session. Senate reps pass Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Senate amend notice period for 2027 polls to avoid Ramadan clash. Obi condemns use of tear gas on peaceful protesters. Call for electoral transparency. Find that in page 2 of that newspaper platform. Now on the top, FAN ban crash transactions across airports nationwide from February 28th. Now on the right side of the Matrix newspaper, ECOWAS courts. Nigeria ignores 80% of our judgment. You find that in page 2. We also have EFCC detain Nasri El-Rufai over 432 billion naira probe, face phone tapping charges. Now in sports, UCL playoff, Madrid Gala PSG, Dortmund win first leg test. You find that in page 25 of that newspaper platform. Now in page 9, African Union, Tinubu pays tribute to Jesse Jackson legacy. Now going to the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard, 2027, reps carved in back senator on Electoral Act Amendment. You find that in page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Still on the Vanguard, Tinubu unveils Nigeria Industrial Policy, demands speedy implementation. You find that in page 9 of that newspaper platform. Now on the top, still on the case of Nnamdi Kanu, release Kanu or return him to Kenya. Southeast monarch tells Tinubu. You find that in page 13, an interesting one there from the Southeast. We also have in page 6, Lent Ramadan begins today. Now, in page 7, on the top as well, Tinubu, Trump, Harris, other mourn as U.S. civil rights leader. Jesse Jackson dies at 84. Now, going straight to the Blueprint newspaper. On the Blueprint, and the highlighted story, NAS court election notice by 60 days, passes hybrid electoral act bill. Now, still on that, we have on the top, FCT election to be transmitted from polling units. That is coming from the INEC institution. Now going to the Nigeria Tribune. On the Nigeria Tribune, on the highlighted, Electoral Amendment Bill, Senate in division, reps in Rodi's session. You find that in page 4. Now on the top, which you will find in page 16, how Owo Catholic Church terrorist attack was planned, executed, DSS witness tells courts. Now in page 16, still on the top, Nigeria loses 8 trillion naira yearly to suspicious weavers. That is coming from reps. Now going straight to the Daily Trust newspaper. On the Daily Trust, which is our last newspaper platform for today, APC gets its way. APC gets its way. You find that in page 4, 5, and 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Now on the boldly written highlighted word, which is saying Gobe Governor hosts Yobe counterpart, President aid for key project commissioning, LCDA's groundbreaking. Now, this is the headlines on all our newspaper platform for today. And that is all I have for you on this segment on newspaper review in First Next News Port Harcourt. I am Kings Ojalo. Many thanks for being with us. It's a bye for now.